Hey everybody. Happy Friday. I just want to say it's been really, really fun talking with you all on the phone. I called most of you today. Unfortunately, some of your parents didn't answer. Maybe they're at work or maybe they didn't recognize my number or something, but I'll try again tomorrow. So tell your parents if they see my number to answer so I can talk to you. I know some of you were kind of upset with the cliffhanger I left you with yesterday, so we're going to try that again today. So here we go. I'll read just a little bit back what it was. Says at the same time I was having those weird flashbacks to my outside life, and something inside me was pulling me away from the zombie life, but I didn't know why. All I did know was that I had a decision to make. There's where I left off yesterday. I walked over to the bag of salt. No! Cried Azalea. I moved closer to her. The bag was heavy, especially for a juvenile like myself. I dragged it across the circle, then tried to pick it up. Jim came over to help me, and Rick patted me on the back and said, "You've got this, kid." I think he was trying to make me feel better about what I was about to do, but he didn't. I felt awful. Finally, I got the bag up to my shoulders. Azalea was looking at me with pure fear in her eyes. I glanced over quickly at Burstus and Frumpus, who looked like they would rather be anywhere else, too. Then I walked over to Azalea and leaned down only so she could hear me. "I believe you," I said. And then I walked over to Dr. Grassmere and dumped the bag of salt on his head. "I don't believe you," I said. He just stared at me. The salt was falling from his body and gathering in a small mound at his feet. I would say that all the afterlives held a breath, but we don't breathe. Instead, everyone just stood there perfectly still, frozen, waiting, staring at Dr. Grassmere. I glanced at Azalea. She looked still terrified, but also relieved and very confused. After 5 seconds, I turned back to Dr. Grassmere, nervous. "I'm sorry," I said. "I couldn't do it. She's my friend." He stared blankly, as if trying to decide what to do with me. "You have disappointed me greatly, Norbus," he said. "We have been training for this, and you didn't come through." My mind whirled as I tried to process what was happening. "Training? You mean with the loud buzzing noises and the red lights? Don't you mean brainwashing?" Dr. Grassmere's eyes narrowed into little slits. "It is clear that being on the outside has changed you. It has made you fantasize about being independent, a free thinker." He brushed off some of the salt that was on his body. "I have news for you, Norbus. What you thought was salt was actually nothing more than finely crushed sand. Nothing would have happened to Azalea. This was just an exercise, a simulation to prove once and for all that you would make a fine zombie warrior, willing to make the hard decisions. It is clear we were mistaken." So here's a picture of Norbus pouring the salt on Dr. Grassmere. He turned out to face the rest of the afterlives who were still watching our every move. "We know that some people who say they are our friends are really not our friends. Dr. Kinder, the woman who claims to be Norbus's adoptive mother, has turned completely against our program. She would like nothing more than to shut it down completely." Dr. Grassmere walked up to me. "We thought you were ready, Norbus, but you're not ready. You're not close to being ready." Then, surprisingly, he put his arm around my shoulder. "But I'm not angry. We're here to support you and help you learn. This is your home after all, and there's no place like home, and you will stay and you will continue to train and learn. And if we have to intensify the training, we will." "What does that mean?" I asked, but he ignored me. Instead, he nodded his head as if to give a signal, and the red light came back on. It seemed brighter and louder than ever. A giant screen appeared out of nowhere, with Commander Jensen's giant face on it. It seemed like he was staring straight at me. "Ring of Wisdom is over," he said. "We have learned so much here today." Then he raised both his arms into the sky, and everyone began to cheer. The buzzing started to blast through the speakers. Rick and Jim cheered, and the staff cheered. The zombies cheered. Even Azalea cheered. I glanced around, and everyone was yelling and cheering except for me and Sergeant Kelly, who stood completely still, staring straight ahead. She was always on duty. Dr. Grassmere was watching me, Why aren't you cheering? He yelled, trying to be heard above the noise. Don't you believe? He pointed upward. Look into the light, Norbus. All the answers are in the light. But I didn't want to look into the light. I was done looking into the light once and for all. I didn't want special training, and I realized I wasn't really home either. I closed my eyes. I covered my ears with my hands. I felt the red light invade into the darkness, but it wasn't nearly as bright, and the buzzing noise was getting softer. Softer. And the memories began flooding into my head like always. But this time, they were different memories. I remembered running down the street after I escaped, lost and alone on the street, and the truck pulling up to me. I remembered Mr. Kinder extending a hand, Mrs. Kinder teaching me how to brush my teeth, Lester making fun of me but protecting me, going to school and meeting my friends, Mrs. Kinder, my mom, tapping her chest and saying, You'll always be right here. And suddenly I knew where I belonged. I glanced up to my fellow zombies who were all in a trance. Then I walked over to Dr. Grassmere. You're right, I told him. There is no place like home. But what I didn't tell him was that my home wasn't here. It was out there, and I needed to go. Should I stop there? Should I stop there? I'm not going to stop there, though, because that was very, very short. But we are on part 4. The escape and the rescue. You thought I was going to stop there. No. I don't always give you cliffhangers. Okay, yeah, I do. All right, here we go. Outside Friday, 4:14 p.m., Evan's point of view. Lester looked like his eyes were going to pop out of his head. You want me to do what? Kiki and I looked at each other. I don't see why it's such a big deal, I said, trying to sound casual. You don't see why it's such a big deal? Lester went back to polishing his bike, which is what he's doing when we told him our simple idea. Evan, how long have we known each other? I was trying to figure out if this was some sort of test. Like 3 months? Exactly. Like, we barely know each other. So why would you think I would even remotely entertain this idea of doing something like this? Kiki put her hand on Lester's arm. Yeah, but you've known me a lot longer, she said. We're like practically old friends, and besides, it's not like we're asking you to fly us to the moon or anything, right? Lester threw his rag down on the seat and glared at us. You want me to break into a government facility and then break someone out of that same government facility? That's A, crazy, B, nuts, and C, totally insane. He picked the rag back up and started twirling it nervously in his hand. Oh, yeah. Indeed, completely bonkers. Forget it. I can't believe you, Lester, I said. You're Arnold's brother. They tricked him to get him back in there, and you went and visited him and saw how they, brainwashed him? Zombies don't have brains, interrupted Lester. Yes, they do, Kiki said. They don't eat brains, but they definitely have them. Lester rolled his eyes. Whatever. The answer is no. And besides, my parents are figuring it all out. Kiki shook her head. The last time they figured it out, Arnold got sent back. I can't help you. Lester turned his music back on. We were just about to give up and walk away when our secret weapon walked up, otherwise known as Darlene. What's up, youngsters? She said, fist bumping each of us. Helping Lester shine up his bike for that 10th time this week? Lester took his earbuds out just in time to hear Darlene make fun of him. Ha, 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 he said, not very enthusiastically. They were just leaving. Kiki and I looked at each other as if we both had the same idea at the same time. Kiki spoke first. Actually, Darlene, can we ask you something? It's about Arnold. No way, Lester said, but we weren't listening. I think that's Lester and Darlene, or maybe that's Kiki. I think that's Kiki with Lester. I don't think we've seen Darlene. Have we seen Darlene in our pictures? I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I don't remember. Do you remember? I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. Anyways, okay, let's keep on. What about him? Darlene said. Geez, I sure do miss that little guy. Us too, I said. We miss him a lot, but he's stuck in that terrible place called the Territory, and they're not letting him out. Darlene sighed. I know. You think they're going to keep him like another week or something? I think they're going to keep him forever, I said. I don't think we'll ever see Arnold again. Hey, wait a second, Lester said. Nobody ever said anything about that. They just need him for a little while longer. That's what the doctor said. I asked my dad about it, Lester, I said. He doesn't think they're ever going to let him out. He thinks they're just saying that so that the Kinders won't freak out. Lester looked like he'd eaten an overripe banana. Oh man, that's not good. I'll say it's not good. Darlene put one of her big boots on the back of Lester's bike, right where he'd been cleaning it, which didn't make him happy. What are we going to do about it? My parents are figuring it out with Evan's dad, Lester said. I think they're going to write a letter to some lawyer they know in the government. A lawyer in the government? Asked Darlene. First of all, that sounds very complicated. And second of all, isn't the government the one who runs the program in the first place? Lester was starting to look uncomfortable. Well, yeah, but... he said, trailing off. Darlene twirled a strand of her pink hair. But what? I wanted to jump in, and it seemed like the right time. We want to break Arnold out, I said. Darlene whipped her head around. You want to what? Break Arnold out, Kiki said. Rescue him? Help him escape? Darlene let out a long, low whistle. Wow, dudes, that's just... what's the word I'm looking for? Nutso. I know, right? Lester agreed. He looked a little relieved. A wicked grin crossed Darlene's face. Totally nutso, but I love it. Lester dropped his rag. You what? I love it. Darlene sat down in the grass. So, what's the plan, guys? That's what we were just talking to Lester about, Kiki said, winking at him. You've been there, so you would know how to find it again, right? I guess, he said glumly. Just because he was grateful for us helping him look good in front of his girlfriend didn't mean he was suddenly all gung-ho about breaking into a government installation. I mean, I remember the town where it was, and I could probably figure it out once we got there, but, there's just one small problem. I'm too young to drive, remember? Darlene grinned. Isn't that why God invented car services? Oh, right, mumbled Lester. Darlene jumped to her feet and kissed Lester right in the mouth. Ew. Kiki and I stared. It was the first mouth-to-mouth kiss I'd ever seen up close. I didn't realize something could be so gross and so awesome at the same time. It turns out, though, that one kiss has a lot of power. Lester suddenly adopted a take-charge attitude. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, we're going to tell our parents that we're going to go hiking for the day and that we need money for lunch and dinner. Then we're going to go get a taxi and drive down to the town where the territory is. Then we're going to sneak in, find Arnold, and grab him. He paused and took a deep breath. And then we're going to run as fast as we can. As soon as he was finished talking, Darlene, Kiki, and I all did the same thing. We cheered. This will either be the most awesome thing we've ever do, or the dumbest, Lester added. But I guess we won't know which one it is until we do that. My friend has an older brother named Simon who works for one of those driving companies, Darlene said. I'll ask him to take us. Lester nodded. Tell him it's a round trip, and the cab has to be big enough for the 5 of us since we'll have Arnold with us on the way home. Actually, 6 of us, I said. Lester and Darlene looked at me both and said, Huh? 6 of us, I repeated. There's someone else who needs to come. Do you know who it might be? Oh, no. What do you think? What we're doing is dangerous, said Lester. No one else can know. Why would you want to bring another person? Kiki and I looked at each other. Because we wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for her, Kiki said. Who do you think it is? I think it's Sarah Ann. All right. I'm going to read just a little bit more. Inside, Friday, 5:32 p.m. Arnold's point of view. I kept myself for the rest of the night after the Ring of Wisdom. Now that I'd made up my mind to try and escape, I wanted to be alone to see if I could bring up any more memories about my life outside. I knew they were buried somewhere inside my head, and I knew that they'd actually happened, but the deprogramming I'd gone through was powerful, and the memories would only come in quick glimpses. I wanted more. The next day, I tried to act like everything was normal. During morning exercise circle, I even cheered when the red light came on. Later, after dinner, I was walking back to the pod when Frumpus and Bursus came up beside me so quickly that I didn't have time to sneak away. You were very courageous last night not to salt Mount Azalea, Frumpus said. I don't care what Dr. Grassmere says. I think you are a true zombie warrior. Oh, I don't think I showed you a picture from this other page. Oh, wait, yeah, I did. It's just those two. Yeah, I never showed you that. Sorry. Bursus was shaking his head. That wasn't very nice what they put Azalea through. The poor thing was scared to death, I said. It was a dirty trick. A dirty trick how? Asked Frumpus. The way they built up our trust and then tear it down. It's not right. Who's they? Asked Bursus. Everyone here. The humans who designed us, created us, and built us. I stopped walking and looked at them. You both realize that, right? They both looked completely lost and confused. I don't know what you're talking about, Frumpus said. I opened my arms wide. This whole place, this whole project, and we're the subjects, which is why they call us subjects. We're experiments who were originally created to attack America so society could unite over destroying us. Now, they want us to join their military and spy on people they think are threatening the American way of life. How do you know all this? Bursus asked. I could feel the cold blood in my body rushing to my head as I got more and more upset. Better question is, how do you not know all of this? Because of how you've been programmed? That's how, every time they turn on those red lights and start to play the loud buzzing sound through the loudspeakers, that's when they're programming us or deprogramming us. They're replacing information inside our brains. They both stopped walking. I don't understand, Bursus said. We're not real. We're science projects, I said. It's one thing to not be human, but it's another to not be treated humanely. I want to go to where I will be treated humanely. Frumpus bent down to look me in the eye. What are you saying, Norbus? I started walking again. Excuse me, guys. I started walking again, worried I'd said too much. Nothing. It's something that we should all want, that's all. Do you think... Frumpus said, and then he stopped. Do you think there's a place out there for us? Like a place where you were? I don't know, I told him honestly. I hope so. That's why I agreed to come here in the first place, to make sure that could happen. But now we all know that that was a lie. A lie, Bursus repeated, like the word was part of a foreign language. We didn't choose to become part of this world, I told them. That choice was made for us. But now that we're here, we deserve to be treated just like everyone else. No better, no worse, just the same. Bursus and Frumpus both nodded but didn't say anything. We walked silently for a few minutes as if all imagining a better, more fair world. But then we rounded the corner and arrived at our pod. They stopped short. Their faces went dark. What is it? I asked. What's wrong? They glanced at each other, but neither one spoke. I shrugged. Okay, fine. I'll be the only talkative one. I opened the door to the pod and stepped inside. I'm going to stop there. Horrible. Horrible ending, right? Oh man. It's gonna get good. So they both probably saw and they're like, oh my gosh. They didn't say anything. Opened the door. Stepped inside. I wonder who's in there. Oh man. I don't know. It's gonna get interesting. It's gonna be crazy. Well, I hope that you enjoyed my reading tonight. It was a little bit longer. I'm going to try and make them probably not quite as long as this video. This was pretty long. The one yesterday was probably just perfect on the length. So hopefully you're still listening by now, because it's pretty long, and I'm sorry about that. I look forward to talking to the rest of you here in the next couple days, and then re-talking to the rest of you again next week, because like I said, I miss you guys. So hope you're finding some things to do, and you're not too bored, and you're doing your chores and being nice to everybody in your family. So again, if you have any questions or stories you want to tell me, or comments, you can comment below, or you could subscribe to my thing, and then that way you'll know that when I repost another video, make sure to be able to go watch it. So yeah, happy Friday, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.